Good morning, glad you could join us. I want to share some things that I picked up from Psalm 3 and also from James Montgomery Boyce. So in Psalm 3, it's interesting because it's a Psalm of David. It's numbered 3, and yet he would have written it much closer to the end of his life. If you read the heading, it says a Psalm of David regarding the time David fled from his son Absalom. So this means when Absalom has done the coup d'etat, he's done the revolution, he's taken over Israel, and David is in exile. Oh Lord, I have so many enemies, so many are against me. Can you imagine? It's your own son. So many are saying God will never rescue him. But you, O Lord, are a shield about me. You are my glory, the one who holds my head high. I cried out to the Lord, and he answered me from his holy mountain. So at the beginning, he's focused on everybody says I'm losing. Everybody says it's terrible. And yeah, the tabloids, oh my goodness, can you imagine what would happen today if the president's son, whatever president it is, overtakes him and takes over the White House? Yeah, that would be pretty big news. And I can imagine how you'd be pretty depressed if that happened. Even more depressed than if somebody else had done it. An enemy. It's your own son. But at the beginning, he's focused on his enemy. But by the second stanza, there's a quiet expression of his confidence in God. And what's produced this change is he changes his attention from his enemies to God. Do you remember when the children of Israel sent in the 12 spies? They all saw the same promised land. They all saw the fruit of the land is flowing with milk and honey. They all saw how good it was. They all saw how big the giants were there. And 10 people came back with a bad report. It's like a Rorschach test. What do you see? Well, they saw that it couldn't be done. But Joshua and Caleb saw that it could be done. Now, it's not just pop psychology. Of those 12, how many ever made it to the promised land? That would be 2. It'd be the 2 who thought that they could. It was Joshua and Caleb. But this whole thing of spiritual warfare, and we mentioned some of this earlier this week. I can remember there was a person in our church when I was in the city. They always focused on the enemy, on demonic things. And I was at a prayer meeting in the church office, and afterwards this guy told me this. He was actually homeless. I handled his finances. He had hotels at different points. But anyway, I handled his finances for a long, long time. And his name is Ed. And so we were praying in the office, and this one person was praying because they were praying like against these snipers that were taking aim at me. And this guy, like, he didn't know the Christianese. He really thought like some bullets were going to come flying through the window any second. He said, I was ready to jump on the floor. Sometimes we focus too much on the enemy instead of focusing on God. And God wants us to focus on him. And when we do, it just brings the difficulty down to size. The more that we focus on God as we magnify him. I love that word magnify. It's like the magnifying glass. You use it, remember with sunlight, you could catch a paper on fire because it intensifies it. And that's what worship is, when we willfully choose to look at God and see how great he is, then the other stuff starts to shrink away. Even if your own son leads a rebellion against you, then you'll end up saying like David in verse 8, victory comes from you, O Lord. May you bless your people. But in between, he worked through a lot of different emotions. May God guide you through the emotions so that you can come to the same place as David. Victory comes from you. May you bless your people. He started by saying, I have so many enemies, so many that are against me. May God bring the same kind of shift in our thinking. God bless you. Have a great one.